You know, I don't get why Netflix's movie Bubble is getting so many bad reviews. No, not The Bubble. I watched 37 minutes of it before giving up, and me and my father just watched Top Gun instead. So, Bubble. It got mixed reception, or it's getting mixed reception. I watched it not knowing one single review ahead of time. Then I looked it up and it had 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. Since then, it gained more positive reception from critics, but I still consider this movie incredibly split between people whether they seem to love it or hate it. IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, and the reaction is also split when I read the comments. Basically, some people think the movie is uninteresting, doesn't live up to the potential of its world and concept in the film, and the characters are stereotypes seen in tons of other animes prior. Many praise the film, though, for its visuals, which easily outweigh the flaws for many, or just enough, but most people don't, so what did I think about it? Well, I should explain something first, actually. And yes, this is actually something I really want to explain because I think it's important to give you my mindset going into this about my respect slash despise relationship for anime in general. As a kid, I hated anime for two reasons specifically. One being the Pokemon anime, where everyone I knew was so into it, it bothered me. The show, the card game, I didn't get it, I didn't understand it, and I despised Pokemon for so many years. But ever since Detective Pikachu came out, I can say I don't despise Pokemon anymore. I'd seen what good can come out of the franchise, and over the years I understood why others like it. I don't and never will, but this isn't the only reason. The first anime film I saw was Ponyo. I saw it in elementary school, was weirded the hell out by it, but over the years I learned it's not because it's an anime it's weird in general. So yeah, I decided with my long list of movies I haven't seen yet, I decided to finally give anime another chance watching the Studio Ghibli movies, which I finally gained a respect for anime, with personal favorites Castle in the Sky, Kiki's Delivery Service, and The Wind Rises. But I wouldn't call myself a fan of anime still. For every time I do watch a good anime movie, I'm reminded from stuff on Netflix or whatever Pokemon clones my brother watches on Hulu that anime can be garbage. And sure, there are good anime people will say exist. I just don't care. Sorry. But I don't ignore suggestions, I'm just not into anime. So with that said, this is technically the first anime film I've seen not by Studio Ghibli. It's written by Gen Urobuchi, Naoko Sato, and Renji Oki. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing these names wrong, I am ignorant. And also it's directed by Tetsuro Araki. Yeah, I really hope I'm not saying these names wrong. Coming from Studio WIT, or Studio WIT, I actually don't know if it's pronounced that way either. Anyways, the studio is behind a good anime show I heard of, called Attack on Titan. Never watched it. So, watching this movie though, did it make me appreciate anime more, or did it remind me why I usually don't get into anime? Well, with that said, what's the movie about? The movie takes place in an alternate futuristic dystopia, Tokyo, Japan, where it's been 5 years since a great travesty. Bubbles came down from the sky out of nowhere, but one big explosion by the Tokyo Tower wiped out many buildings and caused one big bubble to surround Tokyo, leaving inside Tokyo to be flooded and become the world from Reminiscence. Remember that movie? Remember? Well, while the bubble dome thing doesn't trap people inside, people can enter or leave if they like. It's restricted from entering, but many people do live there since they claim to have nowhere else to go. A bunch of young kids, or teens, all boys, i.e. like the Lost Boys of Neverland, live there in groups as they do a certain self-made game in order to swap supplies they bet on if they compete. And that game is called Battlekour. At least I think that's what they called it in the movie. Anyway, so it's basically that two teams of five do a parkour race from building to building to get to the flag first, but one team is usually the winner, thanks to their best player, Hibiki. He's the only person who can jump on the bubbles that surround the city without popping them when stepping on them. He's also a jerk who, despite being on a team who he works with and living with them on their boat together, he likes to train by himself, spend his free time alone, but all that changes when he goes to the Tokyo Tower when he thinks he hears something. Hearing this song that sounds so familiar, but when he heads there, he ends up falling and almost drowning in water when a mysterious someone comes to save him. She looks like a human girl, and while it's revealed to the audience what she actually is at the beginning, I will not spoil that because it's the beginning of the movie's incredible absurdity. She acts more like an animal, doesn't really understand human beings, but she becomes fond of Hibiki with him naming her Uta since she doesn't have a name. She gets help from a scientist named Makoto, who's there to study the kids who live in Tokyo, with her learning the history of the world. Space, a story that resembles her own, and what it means to be human with Hibiki. As the two grow closer together, and she helps him show his kind side to others. He hides from most people. But living in such a dangerous world means Hibiki and Uta might not be able to handle it, as this film tells a story about so much and so little at the same time. I think the movie is great. Despite its flaws, I love the look of this movie. I might not be a huge fan of anime or, the art style of anime, but I don't know anyone who's into animation that can say they can't appreciate the backgrounds, the imagination on screen. Even the angles almost make it feel like there's a camera that follows them doing parkour. Speaking of parkour, that is pretty much 8% of the movie. I didn't do the math, it's just an estimate. It is impressive animation. I'm sure there's more to the story than just being there to, look cool, because, parkour is so cool. It's something Hibiki and Uta bond over doing, and with the world the film creates, it is impressive to see these characters pull off. It is some of the best animation I've seen this decade. I mean, it's only 2022, but still. And I can't show clips since obvious reasons, and I don't want to show pictures to spoil it, so do watch it yourself since I do recommend it. But I should probably get on with what else I thought of the movie. The movie story, I think, works. I'll admit the characters could have been better, but I mean, you'd seen the two main characters. You've seen them before. Not nice guy has his heart opened by an innocent girl who doesn't fully understand how the harsh the world can be. But it works here since they are very likable together. One of my favorite relationships I'd seen in a movie in a while, but that doesn't mean I like the side characters. As I said, the game is a team of 5 versus 5, and Hibiki's 4 teammates are so forgettable. I only remember what 3 out of 4 of them even looked like by the end of it, and I don't remember any of their names except Kai. It doesn't hurt the story, but I didn't consider how, when I saw someone say it would have been more interesting to focus on all the boys since they all have no families, that isn't explored in the film. That's not what the movie's about. It's not about the kids. The only one who does get any development involving this subject is Hibiki. Before I even read any reviews, I still did have a couple problems, mostly with the ending where I thought it was over like twice, but it kept going, and I want to make clear, this movie doesn't overstay its welcome. It's fast-paced, but for any story mode it needs to slow down, it does, and when it wants to be fast-paced, it still works. It just feels like they could have stopped the movie a minute or two sooner. Also, the dialogue wasn't the best, and if anyone was wondering, I watched this movie with the original voice cast in Japanese and read English subtitles. I don't know if there was any difference made, but nothing specifically stood out as that interesting or profound, except for the ending, which goes on about an interesting way to look at something sad, but also sweet at the same time. And some said the movie was predictable, but the movie also seems aware of it. It shows how it compares and contrasts with the story they used in the movie very cleverly. And sure, it's not perfect. Some things didn't need to be spelled out. But regardless, I think the story works. It has a real relationship at its center I care about and hope it would work out. And if it did or didn't, I won't spoil it. But with that ending voiceover, it reminded me what I got out of the movie. The movie has a great story about hope, bitterness, friendship, love, tragedy, but profoundness. And sure, it's not perfect. There are problems I understand others have. And maybe since I'm not familiar with as many other animes as others, I have no idea what takes from other anime, since I saw many say the characters were anime stereotypes. For me though, the characters work. I love the world given to me. The movie is expertly paced. I really like the music by Hiroyuki Sawano. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And the animation alone makes this something worth watching. How much this movie's story works is up to opinion, for sure. I mean, this is my review. You're listening to my opinion of the movie. But I don't think one person said this movie isn't beautiful to look at. It's an anime movie I could watch it for how it looks alone. I'm glad I gave it a chance. And it might not be the best anime thing I guess I could watch, but I'm happy that I took the leap to begin with to watch the movie. I give Bubble an 8.5 out of 10.